Hello, and welcome back to Rise and Lead Women's Leadership Perspectives. I am your host, ChèRee Wiley, and this month, the month of August, we are going to focus on how we leverage the gifts and talents of the members on our team. As leaders, whether it's in corporate spaces or we're entrepreneurs, we build teams based off of the skills that they bring to the table. And one thing that happens a lot that I've noticed over the years is that people sometimes forget that there are very specific reasons why we hire certain people. Those reasons are because of their talents and their gifts. And so when you are a leader, it is really important to learn your team and start to identify what talents and gifts do they bring to the table in order for you to help to use that in order to take the company to the next level or to just accomplish the goals that are set forth by the business. You need those people. You cannot do it all your own. And that is kind of a struggle that again piggybacks on what we talked about in the month of July, what people's motivations are and how they show up as leaders. If you're a selfish leader who only really thinks about how you look better in situations, you will either misuse your team or you won't use your team at all. And one thing that I hate to see happen is when you see someone come in energetic and excited about the work that they're getting ready to do, start to fizzle out over time because they're not being utilized. Their ideas are not being valued. They don't feel like they have a voice at the table. They're just there. They're just taking up space. And even worse is when their skill set is then kind of put to the back burner, and people who don't know about the area in which they were hired for start to tell them how they should go about doing what they know how to do. And it does cause those people to kind of start to pull back over time, because eventually all of us have been there. I know I have. You get to a place where it's like, what is the point? What is the point of sharing my ideas? What is the point of me trying to do this? Y'all are not listening. You really don't care. And that is the way it feels. And actions speak louder than words, because it is the worst thing ever to be the type of leader that tells people that you care about and value what they bring to the table, but your actions show something completely different. And so we don't want to be that type of leader, right? And so the work that happens is being very strategic, very intentional about how we leverage those gifts, because it's not about usury once a person is a part of the team. It's about adding value. And people want to come to a company to do their job. In general, you may have some people who, have a different perspective idea of what their work looks like and their scope of work look like. But in general, people come to you, to your company, to your business. They buy into the idea because they believe that what they bring to the table will be utilized and will bring value to that space. And so how do we determine and figure out what gifts to use where and on what projects and what will make this better? And I tell you, the key to that is relationships. And we've kind of mentioned this before, but you have to learn and know your team. And for some people that may be a little bit more difficult. Understanding the difference between an introverted and an extroverted personality is one way to start to enter that door. Obviously, extroverts are going to be more vocal about the things that they're good at. It's going to come out immediately. They like to talk. They're really energetic about whatever the projects are that they're being given. It may be that they are go-good getters and they immediately jump into it. It may be that they constantly want to be in the mix of things and they're good at making connections because they like to talk. Those are things that we can kind of identify more quickly. But what about those people on our team that are a little bit more introverted? So they're quieter. They're a little bit slower to start to put out ideas. A lot of times an introverted person is going to really sit back and kind of read the room, learn the landscape, right? Learn the lay of the land before they start throwing things out, because they are trying to determine if they can trust you. And an introverted person, that is our personality. A lot of people do not believe that I'm an introvert, but naturally I am more of a person that is really analytical. I sit back and I watch how people interact. I watch the responses and the body language of in different situations, and it is because I need to be very certain that I'm in a place of safety. I've learned over the years to vocalize those things in which are on the inside of me, because people don't know what's going on in my head. And so in order for me to make connections, I've had to kind of come out of my shell in that way. And so I would now refer to myself more of a extroverted introvert, because I know how to be extroverted when I need to be, but my nature is still that I'm still watching and I'm learning. And so it has taken time over the years for leaders to learn me, right? Because when I first got started, I didn't know that I was going to have to push myself a little bit further, and I didn't always feel comfortable. And so I often kind of just stayed in a place where I was in my comfort zone, and I had to grow out of that. But as leaders, sometimes people don't know what they don't know. I had to be taught that I had to speak up in spaces, and that I had to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. But all of those things helped to build my capacity. And it took leaders who were willing to say, hey, I see something else in her. Let's bring that forth. And that's the same thing that has to happen on all teams everywhere. You have to get to know your people in order to use their strengths and to push the vision of the company, whether it's your vision as the CEO and founder, and who has come up with this concept that is going to help change people's lives in one way or another, or it is that you're still working for a company and you have grabbed hold of their vision, and you are working and your team is working to take that vision to the next level. Whatever that may look like, it's still the same process. You have to leverage those skills in order to get the results that you want. People who are using their gifts in their career tend to stay in those careers longer because they're happy, right? We join companies because we want to do the work. And we've talked about this before. People don't leave companies, they don't leave industries, they don't leave institutions, they leave people. They leave people who don't appreciate them, people who don't value their voice, don't value their contributions, people who try to put them into boxes, and they're not allowed to show up authentically on a regular basis. The way that I flow needs to have space to do that, right? Like I need to be able to bring my creativity to the table. I've talked about this before. I am a writer. So any opportunity that I have to bring that gift to the table to help make my team stronger, that's exactly what I want to do, and in place where I thrive. When I have the opportunity to share and to instruct, it is a space where I thrive. I've been in situations where I had one position in particular that when I first kind of started out, I was really, really excited because I was being given the opportunity to lead PD. I was given the opportunity to, share my ideas, and yes, some of the things that I was discussing in those spaces made people uncomfortable because I was talking about things that people didn't want to talk about to begin with. Because in that particular role, my job was more about talking about making sure that we were creating equitable spaces and making sure that people were identifying their own bias and they were checking it. And so, over time, I started to feel the reins a little bit, right? Like the constraints being put there because the people that were uncomfortable had started to vocalize that. And so instead of having leadership that was saying, no, like y'all need to learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because it's in our discomfort that growth happens, the leader then took it as, well, maybe we need to pull her back a little bit because people are uncomfortable. And so, and that does happen, and people make choices for whatever reason, but it started to, the role started to become more stifling. And when I'm stifled, it does impact my excitement about the work, right? Because I am a creative being. That is something that is just ingrained in a part of me. I'm the person that is, I have constant ideas. Let's try to figure out how to make this happen. Whatever I need to do. And my ideas usually are real big. Sometimes bigger than people can even visualize. But in my mind, I know that if we stay the course, we'll get to a place that is bigger than anyone else could realize. And because I've seen it happen before. And so I have learned to embrace that side of me. My creativity is a key part to my success in any space. Like, I need to be able to create in the spaces that I'm in. And I understand this to the point that I offer creativity even when it's not necessarily part of my job title. And that's when you know that you love it, right? If you have a member of your team who is offering to do things that are not necessarily part of their job, and their motivations are very clear, that has nothing to do with them getting clout. Like, you don't have to put my name on anything. It is not about me being, the headliner for whatever this is, but because it is their passion, and they're operating from a place of passion, they want to do extra. They want to do more, because whatever their primary thing is the primary thing. But this is something else that brings them pleasure. And understanding that when you are leveraging those gifts, right? Like, when you're identifying those gifts, also helping them understand, I'm fine with you helping out in this area as long as you're doing your main job, right? Like, still do the job that I hired you for. But if it's something extra, so for instance, if my job in a space is for me to come up with presentations that we share with clients or companies, we're trying to get packages together in order to make more money. It could be for advertisement. It could be to get investors. It could be, for donations, whatever the case may be. Okay, that is the job. That's the job to do. But if you're a person who loves to, make things look really nice, or, your niche is that I want to make sure that everything the presentation is just done in a means of excellence, which is the expectation anyway. But I don't want it to be dry, right? Like, I don't want it to just be some basic black and white presentation that we give, and we just go through the facts, boom, 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 boom. I want it to look nice. I want it to be colorful. I want it to be vibrant. I have this idea. I want, to let's do an advertisement. Like, let's just take this to another level. As long as they are doing the job, it is not harming you for them to be able to do that. And if you have a person who does that, why not partner them together? Hey, what would y'all think about working together or collaborating on this particular project? Because Mindy has already finished this assignment, but she wants to elevate it a little bit. And I think that that's really important too, because we have got to, as leaders, and I say we because I'm a leader as well, we have to start curating teams where people understand the value of working together. And that is, to me, one of the quickest ways for business to meet a downfall is when you allow dissension or these silos within your team, because a team means we're all in this together. But I've seen so many different situations where you have individuals who refuse to let go of any of what they consider to be their power. So Sarah has been doing this job for the last 20 years, and now Jessica has come in, and she is also good in this area. I see the strength here. When she does her presentations, her PowerPoints are beautiful and everything is well laid out, and it's just a nice flow and a nice rhythm. But when she goes to Sarah and says, hey, do I love to do this. This is something that I'm really excited about and passionate about. Could we work together? And Sarah's like, no, I got it. But Sarah doesn't do things in the same way that Jessica does. And I'm not talking about getting rid of Sarah at all, but I'm talking about teams learning how to work together in such a way that now Sarah has a new items or understanding to add to her toolbox so that she can start elevating her presentations as well. And we a lot of times allow it, right? Because in corporate spaces, in educational spaces, even in our own small business spaces, or once your small business becomes a large business spaces, we are more worried about losing Sarah, who's been here for 20 years, than we are about growing Jessica. And while we should be trying to maintain the relationship and the joy that Sarah experiences while she's in the workplace, Jessica also needs to be supported in this place, because we don't want her light to fizzle because she's not allowed to continue to grow. And there's value in that relationship, in such a relationship as well, because if Jessica really likes to do what Sarah does, then Sarah can teach Jessica things as well. So you have this mutual relationship or mentorship that happens with a newer person and someone who is more seasoned, but understanding that we have to remove that spirit of competition on the same team. If we are a team, we're not in competition with one another. And this happens on so many different levels. Even when I think about a lot of times, of course, I've talked a lot about I'm a Christian business owner and a Christian leader. And it does guide the way that I lead, right? Not to push my religion off on anyone, but there are definite staples about the way I carry myself because of my relationship when it comes to, who I serve and how my life is viewed on a regular basis, because it's not just you watching, right? It's much bigger than you. I don't want God to be disappointed in me, so I make moves based off of the idea that my daddy's always looking over my shoulder. Like God, my father, sees exactly what I'm doing and how I handle people. And so in that place of understanding that in general, we should not be sitting in a place of competition. There is enough for all of us. And that also motivates how people curate or use or leverage, or whatever word we want to use at the moment, people's gifts on the team, because a lot of times people don't use people's gifts. People shy away from people's gifts because they're intimidated by the possibility that that person could then one day replace them. And what I would argue all of us to kind of consider, as especially as leaders, but in general, people who are having those interactions, is understanding that eventually we'll all get to a place where we'll be replaced. I mean, just to kind of put it bluntly out there, none of us will be able to do whatever it is we're doing for 200-300 years. Like at some point in time, your human body is going to get to a place where someone else is going to have to do the job. And I think that it would make much more sense for us to have trained people along the way to do what we do so that the work never drops. Right? As a business owner, I want my children, I want the people that I hire, my team, I want someone else to be able to do what I do for multiple different reasons. One is that, as I just put out there, I won't be around forever, and it will come a day where I will need to go and sit down so that someone else can then lead. But another reason is so that I don't get burnt out and tired. I've seen this happen a lot, especially when it comes to people who run their own businesses. Entrepreneurs have a terrible, terrible habit. And I speak from my own personal as well. We put ourselves in a position where we can never rest. And we do this because we have so much talent around us, but instead of learning to delegate, instead of learning to assign people to certain things, instead of learning to have team captains over here and all these things so that the work can keep happening, even when we have to step away, we try to do everything ourselves. So I have to be in every single meeting. I have to lead every single meeting. I have to, lead every single project. I have to be there. And again, when you're getting started, you don't have a choice, right? It's you and it's you. Or your team might consist of your family members. But I'm talking about as you continue to grow, and your team grows, and you're adding new talent, and you're hiring, people who really bring a lot of amazing things to the table. Learning how to release some of that, because when you do that, you free yourself up to be able to do other things. The goal of leaders and a strong, company is that it will still keep operating even if I'm not able to. If I got an opportunity tomorrow to go overseas for the next 2 weeks, I should know that nothing will stop while I'm gone, because I have put the right people in place based off of my knowledge and understanding of what they're capable of, and trusting them to do the job in which I hired them to do. That is so, so very important. And it's a lot of times the one thing that is most forgotten. I have talked to so many entrepreneurs that have not taken vacations, have not, had a spa day, have not just relaxed. And some of them has been 10 years. Your business is stable at this point. What are we doing? And again, we have kind of mentioned before, part of what I'm doing in this season is consulting. So I do coach other people. I coach business owners. I coach educational leaders in a consulting capacity in order to help them to understand these things. And that is a conversation that I have with clients. You have the talent, like you've hired the people. I need you to take some time to rest, because just if we go all the way back to our conversations that we were having in June, you have to take care of yourself. But the way that happens is that you are using the talents of the people on your team in order to take off some of that load. Why do you have 15 people working with you if you are not going to use them at all? You got 15 people sitting around like, I don't know what to do. 15 people who can't even run anything, because if they don't get your yes or no on whatever it is, nothing happens. And again, I speak from my own place. I have been guilty of that as well, in the place where I have everything mapped out in my head of how it's going to look, how it's going to flow, what's going to happen in here. I've done events before as well. And the people on the team are like, okay, we're here to help, but nobody knows what's going on because it's all in my head. Or I didn't talk about it, or, we didn't have any kind of briefing before, because it's like, oh, I'll come and I'll just do. And I even had a situation where there was an event that I had agreed to do a lot of the administrative things. And that's a gift that God has given me as well, is that I'm really good about the organization piece and administration piece, because, with the editing and making sure that things are put together in a professional manner. And I was the only person who had everything. I had all the copies, all the folders, everything. And then I got sick. And so I couldn't even be there. And the struggle that it was for me to try to still get everything to them that they didn't have access to until the day of, because I had put myself in a place of doing it all, when the team would have helped if I would have just expressed what needed to happen. And so that is a perfect example of how this all plays out. And so the question really is for all of us, what is at the table? What is already at the table that you can use? And how do we use it in a way that really gets us to the place where we want to be? And so for those of you who do, believe as I believe, who are Christian leaders and who are watching this podcast and do on a regular basis, my go-to always is to pray, to ask God, how do I use the gifts and talents that you have placed in my life, not just in me, because I bring my own set of amazing with me, right? But how do I use the gifts that other people bring to the table in order to move us forward? Because in my philosophy and how I handle business is that, that my business is not just my business, that's God's business. And so I want him to get the glory every time that I make a move. That same thing happens when I think about how I deal with or handle the people that he's entrusted me, right? Because I talked about this before last month, that, leadership is a calling. And the people that I have been called to, that is a responsibility that I don't take lightly. And so when I am, seeking God, and I pray every single day over my business, right? Like I go before God and I am asking for direction on how to do the things that I'm doing in this season, and how to use those gifts that are around me in order to bring forth the vision in which was placed on the inside of me years ago. Because again, Rise and Lead Women's Leadership Perspectives came out of my business diverse perspectives. And that name, the concept, everything that the business stands for comes from that idea that was birthed years ago. And the vision is so much bigger than even where it is now. Like the podcast was always coming, but once it finally came, it's like just a piece of the puzzle. But for me, that's what helps me to continue to move forward. And I would charge you this month and every month afterwards, right? Because we're getting ready to go into the last quarter of the year. And so when you're thinking about what happens in the last quarter, right? As you're moving through this quarter, but we're starting to think about what happens in the last quarter of the year. I would challenge you to really think about what is at the table, because the table has been set, right? The people are there. So what's there that we can then now strategically use in order to get us to a much better place? The goal is for you to be in a better place in December than you are right now. But that takes strategy. That is one thing that cannot be left out in any area. It's the strategy behind what you're doing, right? Because that strategy, that plan, that goal is what is going to help to keep you focused so that you can get to the place where you want to be. But we must leverage what is at the table. And if you are currently a business owner who does not yet have a team, my encouragement to you is that you start asking, what do you need at the table, right? Because you know what you bring to the table. But what do you need at the table, and who is already around you that could possibly add to the things that you need at the table? I was having a conversation just yesterday about, something that I'm in need of. And it just, one individual popped in my head and has come to mind before, that is literally has a degree in the area in which I need this support. Why am I not utilizing this person's gifts? Why have not have a conversation with this person about what that would look like for us to work together in this particular area? That was a aha moment for me, because it's like, okay, let's get it done, right? And that is another thing, that whatever you come up with, right, whatever comes to mind about who is already at your table, who you need to have at your table, then you need to move on it. Don't drag your feet, because these ideas, they come quick. And a lot of times we'll kind of drag our feet. Well, I don't know if I should. Oh, well, Cindy's really good at this, but I don't know if I should actually let her do it, because how it is. Sometimes people drop the ball. Give Cindy a chance to do the thing, right? Or my best friend since elementary school, she's really good at this, and she's actually shown interest in starting a business around this, and I just don't even know she would want to work with me on this, because she's trying to do her own thing. Well, you already got a thing. Like, let's start out there, because that's another thing that you could be helping promote her business through the work that she does with you. And so being creative and strategic about how we do this is really, really important. But we want to continue to ignite the fire of those around us. And sometimes that does start with our own fire. I've had people that have told me recently, you started a podcast. It made me want to start a podcast, because, I've thought about it for years, but I didn't know if I could do it, but you just did it. Like you just, and for me, the blessing in hearing that is because the gifts that I bring to the table ignited a fire in someone else. And that's really what it's about. We should be leading by example, and we should be pushing people to their next level. And I don't mean like aggressively, but I mean like, come on, like we can do this. If I can do it, you can do it, right? Because I'm just me. Like it's it's not some secret formula. The difference is that I am not afraid anymore, and I will put that out there anymore, because there was a time when I was afraid, but I'm not afraid anymore to just act on those things and those ideas that come, because I believe that they're going somewhere. Like, it's no doubt in my mind that this podcast will continue to grow and be successful. And even, part of my team is my husband. My husband is great with production and those sorts of things, and he supports me in these dreams. But as we continue to move forward, even the ideas that are coming out of him about ways to make everything better, right? So that season 1, which is his season 1, that means that more seasons will come. Yes. Season 1 is going to look different than season 2. Season 2 is going to be on a different level, because at that point we've gotten, some experience under our belt. We continue to add equipment. We continue to do the things that need to be done. I'm grateful that my husband is part of my team, because his skill set and mine go together very well. And so that is something that I don't take for granted and I don't take lightly. My son is now interested in editing. So he wants to put together, these exciting videos and all these other things to help to support what mom is doing. He is a part of my team. I didn't know that when he was, a little boy, that he would have a passion for that. But also, just as it happens with those that work under us and as part of our team, as he sees the work that happens in our home to do the things that mom comes up with and that dad just kind of goes along with, then it has now become a part of him, that this is something cool that we do, and I want to add to that. I want to continue to make it better. And that also happens with your team. As your team sees you making moves and coming up with ideas, they're learning from you, and it starts to tap into whatever their gifts and skills are. So what you will often see happen is that even a person who really didn't express that they were interested in something when they first got to you may start to say, hey, I think I would like to try this now. Can I learn more about this? Or I think that this will be great. I have these ideas about, how to elevate the business in this area. And so, what do you think about that? And when they do come to you with those things, support them. Pour into the gift. So that's another piece about that. If you are going to utilize these gifts, support the gifts. Pour into the gifts. If a person who wants to do something that's actually going to help your company says, I would like to take this course, is there any way that you and the company would be willing to help me with it? Yes, because as long as, you are pouring back into us, why wouldn't we be supportive of you continuing your learning in that area in order to make things better? And so, again, the reflection for this month is, what is at your table and how can you utilize it in order to grow your team, in order to grow the vision of your company, in order to get to the next level. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, if you or anyone that you know are interested in consulting services or writing services, please do not hesitate to visit the website dpdei.com, as well as continue to listen. And do not forget, because a lot of people have been listening in and I so appreciate it, but like and subscribe in order to continue to get this great content. Click the bell at the top so every time a new podcast drops, you are aware of it and you are able to listen in. Remember that every second and fourth Thursday of the month, Rise and Lead will be with you, sharing some great information. We have a special guest coming up at the end of this month, so be sure to come back and listen as we continue to really delve into the idea of leveraging the gifts that are on the inside of us, as well as the gifts that are on the inside of our team, in order to get what we strive to get out of our businesses and out of our lives. Thank you, and I will see you next time. This has been Rise and Lead, Women's Leadership Perspectives.